All right. Got it. Okay. Yeah. So thanks for the introduction, Joan. Um, yeah, I've been running our Copper Shores Bridges out of poverty program for a little bit over a year, and I know that it was Portage Health Foundation had it was called before Copper Shores. They had been wanting to get this started for maybe 3 or 4 years, but unfortunately, at that time we had the Father's Day flood, and that consumed the organization here for about a year. And then, of course, we had COVID, and that consumed the organization here also as far as helping the community. So the Bridges program has had to go on the back burner. Before I get started, though, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. So yeah, I grew up in White Pine, and I was talking to Bill Fink and his wife there a little bit about White Pine and growing up in a mining town. When the times were good, there it was really good. I mean, White Pine employed 3,000 people at one time, and the little town of White Pine had 1,500 people in it, and we thought we were in the middle of Chicago because there was just so much to do, and we just had great facilities in the school, and were treated very well. But when the mine would shut down or the miners would go on strike, then as kids living in White Pine, most of us, we were living on welfare and welfare stamps. And looking back at it, I thought I was the only kid that was on, that parents had to have welfare stamps, but obviously everybody probably was in the same situation. And I remember as a kid when it was when times were rough, you're embarrassed to go to the store to get some groceries for your parents, or you just never had new clothes, and um, just times are tough. So that's called situational poverty. And maybe many of you have gone through that too. Our program is based on generational poverty. So folks that are in our program or take our classes are at least two generations into poverty. And so, not to say that we won't help somebody that's in situational poverty, but really our focus is on trying to stop the circle of poverty. And usually those are folks that have been in at least two generations of poverty. In 1988, I moved to Calumet, and I was a teacher for 9 years, and then I was an administrator. And as soon as I became an administrator, I noticed that one of the first things I saw was that we had all of these students in our community, in our classes, that were struggling with behavior and poverty and lack of food, poor clothing, poor health. But all these agencies would come in and try to help these students and families, but it was all pieced together. So one of the first things I did was I hired a school social worker. And I think that was one of the best things that we ever did because we unified all of our services to help families. And as I look back at my career, I think because of my background, I always had a passion for wanting to help people that were underdogs or underserved or struggling. Um, and But I can also say that many of my efforts in the schools were good intended, um, but I don't think we really made a difference in generational poverty at all. In fact, my last 5 years as being a principal, I was getting really frustrated with seeing the same families, children of children that I taught and worked with in the schools. It just perpetuates on and on and on. And so it was kind of disheartening. I know we had good intentions. I look back and we started capturing kids' hearts to try to help. We started trauma-informed schools to help. I started the Horizons Alternative Program in Mohawk. We were a middle school before it turned into a high school. We started a school social worker program, and I'm sure there's a couple things that have forgot, but none of it really made a huge impact on students and their families. And so fast forward to now, I feel like it's kind of a blessing or a calling that I got hired by, at that time, Portage Health Foundation to get their poverty initiative program off the ground. And so I feel blessed to be a part of it because so far it's been extremely rewarding. And I can see that in 10 years, this is going to be like a foundation of our community, and it's going to help people. It's already helping people that are struggling in poverty, and I'll tell you a little bit about that shortly. Um, so yeah, so when we started in June of last year, we were trying to figure out like where do we start. I called as many agencies as I could that help people in poverty, In fact, we called them all together to see, can I get anybody to start our class called Getting Ahead? And basically, I got no applications at all. Let me back up a little bit. So as far as the Bridges program, I see it as like three components. One component is like educating our community, our businesses, our industries, just community members. And so like Joan was talking about a workshop. So we'll run workshops anywhere from an hour to 6 hours, and we'll educate our community and businesses about what people in poverty are really going through. And hopefully we can create some empathy and understanding so that those businesses and industries can take a look at themselves and say, oh, what can I do in our business that we can make those connections where people stay in the job longer, or maybe they come to work more often, or maybe they don't leave us as frequently as they do. Maybe we need to pay more. Maybe we need more benefits. Maybe we need to have transportation. Maybe we need to eliminate some barriers for them. So that's one component of it. The second component is we run 16-week classes called Getting Ahead. And so we meet every Tuesday night from 5:30 to 8:30. And we run 16 classes. And the classes really take people who are struggling in poverty, and we just basically have time for them to analyze their life. And through the 16-week process, we follow this curriculum. And basically, they're just taking a look at their lives and trying to figure out ways that they can become more stable. So the class, it really isn't a class. It's just a curriculum that I facilitate. And we just run through this book and read it together. And we have discussion. And we come up with a thing called a future story. So we spend time gradually getting to a point where by the time they finish the class, they have developed a plan of what they're going to do to become more stable. But we're in the middle of our second class, and I can tell you that it doesn't take 16 weeks for people to start making tremendous changes. With the class, let me back up a little bit. With the class, so we provide free transportation. If they don't have a vehicle, we'll pick them up. We try to eliminate as many barriers as possible and provide a little incentive for them to come. And so we provide free transportation. If they have a car, we give them a $25 gift certificate for gas every week. We give them a $25 Pat's food card every time they show up. We also provide free childcare. And then, of course, we start class with a hot dinner every night with a lot of leftovers. And I mean a lot of leftovers, and they all go. So those are a couple of the incentives and some of the things that we try to do to eliminate barriers. So getting back to the class, right now, for the process, oh gosh, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. So let me just tell you about our class, and this is our second cohort. Our first cohort, we had 8 ladies of all ages. Some of them were 20 years old, and some of them were in their 60s. We had 8 people take the class and 8 graduate. And of the 8, we had 4 of them decide to go to college. 3 of them have followed through with that. We were able to help them get a full ride to college and a full scholarship. And 3 of them are doing extremely well. A couple others have improved their employment. They have jobs where they're making $3 to $4 more an hour. And so it's just those connections, or not those connections, but those opportunities that they may not have thought that they're capable of. There seems to be this underlying tone, like when they start class, like I'm not worthy. There's a lot of hopelessness. They're just in a bad place. And really the class is just there to provide a plan for them to improve their life, to become more stable. But it's also there to show them that there's people that care about them and to try to provide some hope and support. Throughout the 16-week class, almost every week we bring in somebody that we call social capital. So we'll bring in people within the community that can help them increase their resources or make connections where maybe they can get a better job or learn something about opportunities that are in our community. And so I think that has been one of the most powerful things. We've brought in people like Michigan Works, Michigan Rehab. We've brought in judges, lawyers, doctors, just people that can help make connections in the community. And that's been very, very helpful. I'll give you an example. The second week we had class, with our first cohort, we had Steve Pelly come in from Michigan Rehab, and he found out that one of our gals had just applied for a $20,000 loan to take an online class. And he was able to meet with her the following week and get rid of that $20,000 loan and got her a full ride at Gogebic because she qualified and they had this Michigan Reconnect funds. And so it's just those things like that, just meeting people that can help you, the social capital. So that's the second part of our class, or the second part of our program is the connection, the getting ahead class. So anybody is able to join the class. So you have to meet some requirements, and then you have to apply, and then we interview. And so for the second class, we started 5 weeks ago. We had 18 people apply online, and we only accepted 7. And the reason we only accepted 7 is because we have a tremendous amount of folks that have applied that are dealing with substance abuse issues, and they just haven't been sober long enough. The national requirements, they ask us to not take people unless they've been sober for at least a year. And we've decided that we're going to take people that have been sober for 6 months. And so there's a vetting process there. We look at their background, we do a background check, and we just make sure that we get the right people to take the class that are ready to make some changes. So I'm trying to think. So basically those I said there was 3, but those are basically the 2 major components of the Bridges program. We run it for Keweenaw, Houghton, Baraga, and Ontonagon counties. Currently, we have 7 people in our second Getting Ahead class, and we have 3 people from the first class that are taking an additional class called Money Matters. So we have 2 people, one person from Edward E. Jones and one person from Superior National Bank that are teaching a financial literacy class to the graduates of our first Getting Ahead. And so the idea is we just want to keep providing more and more opportunities for them to help themselves and become more successful in life. So I can see in the future, we're hoping to get a Getting Ahead class in Baraga and one in Ontonagon, and of course one in the Houghton area. So I would like to have like maybe a Tuesday night in Baraga, a Wednesday night in Ontonagon, and a Thursday night in Houghton, so that we can reach more people. My biggest obstacle right now is I'm looking for people that are like me, are like-minded, that want to donate some time, or not donate, but get involved and teach or facilitate a class. The training is probably 6 hours online. It's not that difficult, but we're in the process of posting a position to hire 1 or 2 more facilitators so that we can expand next year. The other thing that I want to do is there's a program called Getting Ahead While Getting Out. So in January, we're looking at starting one of our Getting Ahead classes in the jails and in the prison system, so that folks that are incarcerated can go through the same self-help kind of process, and with the idea that when they get out of jail, they have their future story written down, and it's very prescriptive as far as like what they're going to do, what they're not going to do, who they're not going to see. The first 72 hours that they get out of jail is probably the most important for them to be successful, because otherwise there's a high recidivism rate. So some of the requirements for our class is you have to be at the 200% poverty level or below. You can't be on permanent disability, because we want people to be able to work. You can't really be in the middle of a major crisis, and you must be a resident of the Copper Country. So those 4 counties. So yeah, so those are some of our requirements. And our goals are, we basically just want people to become more stable. They may be asking for more assistance for a while. Our long-term goals are to have people completely get off of assistance and be completely independent and be stable on their own. That's our long-term goal. So, well, I feel like I rambled a little bit, Joan, but there's a lot to the program, and I can tell you that the thing that when class starts, the very first night, it takes time before we can develop some trust and really lay some of the information on the table that's important to make changes. But once we do develop that level of trust, You can just see everybody sitting up a little bit taller, and you can see a little bit more sense of hope. And it's been a very rewarding experience. So,
Yeah, Mike, it's fantastic. Is this a good time? Do you want to have Dave post that website and you kind
that
of
that would be great, Joan. Thanks for that lead in. Yeah, if Dave could post that website, I can walk you through the getting ahead process a little bit.
Yeah, just let Dave know, when you want to change the page or what you want him to
Okay.
do.
So, Dave, if you want to go click on getting ahead, you can just scroll down to the goals and outcomes. So you can see those are our goals and outcomes. That's our first graduating class there. There's one gal that couldn't make it, but we had a graduation ceremony at the bonfire, and we invited 65 people showed up for the graduation ceremony, and we had a fantastic meal. And Kevin Storr got up and spoke, and I spoke, and we surprised 4 of our graduates with a $1,000 scholarship for college. So it was a very emotional night, and it was wonderful. But some of our goals, I just said, to become more stable. We want to increase their personal income and decrease their debt. Education is so important, as most of you know. We try to gently put that in front of them so they can at least consider it. We talk about a bank account a little bit and becoming self-sufficient. So, and if you scroll down a little bit more, Dave, you can talk about who's eligible. Again, that's at the 200% federal poverty level. So sometimes people ask, well, what is the 200% poverty level? Well, the 100% poverty level is around $13,500 for a single person. So those numbers are so low. We wanted to double that so that we could include even more. But boy, the federal poverty level is just so low. And I think most of us don't realize that like 17% of the copper country is at that level, at the 100% poverty rate or below. And about 49.5% of the copper country is in the ALICE numbers, which is the asset limited, income constrained, and unemployed. So that's basically people that are making it, they're struggling from week to week. And if they have one tragedy, if they miss one paycheck, they're in trouble. So that's about 50% of the copper country. And the other thing is, like I said, you don't want to be on permanent disability or in recovery. You got to be at least 6 months sober. And even that's a little bit questionable because people are still struggling. So I just want to make sure we get started and see how that goes. So if we could page down, Dave. And those are some of the barriers that we try to eliminate, and incentives. The childcare right now, we have 5 people. We have 14 kids that come to our class, and we have 5 wonderful people that are doing our childcare, and they just do these great activities and some education for our children. We have 2 babies that are 6 months old, and we have about 5 kids that are about 12 years old, and everything in between. And it's just wonderful to see. I think the kids have so much fun that it's helping to force the parents to not miss a class, which is just great, because if somebody misses 2 classes, we ask them to leave the program because it's just you have to build off of the lesson beforehand, and if they can't make it to all 16, then they can't graduate. So we can scroll down some more. If you click on that, fill in our online application, Dave, that'll show you the simple online application that people can go through. It doesn't take long. If you know of somebody that's struggling, we'll be running our 3rd cohort class in January. And again, they can apply, and then we interview them. We do a background check, and then we'll start class at the end of January for 16 weeks for our 3rd class. So if you go up to the top, Dave, where it says our workshops, I would gladly, if you have an organization or an industry that would like to know more, would like this presentation, or if you'd like a a full-blown workshop, I can run a workshop for you. There's no cost for that. Um, Joan was nice enough to pop in on our workshop there. I think, what was that, in June? Was that Joan?
Yeah, it was. Yep, early June, that first week.
It's a kind of it's an exhaustive experience for me. It's not easy to do that for 6 hours straight, but it really is an amazing process because I think most of us really don't know what folks in poverty are going through, and all of the hidden languages and all of the obstacles and that folks are going through. And it really opens up everybody's eyes. I don't think anybody walks out of there without anything other than like, holy cow, we've got to become a bridges community. And that's kind of the selling point is we don't want to just run these classes. We want to become a community that surrounds everybody and gives a hand up. We're not looking for a handout. We're looking for a hand up. And sometimes, I don't know, I would say most of us in life, we have not been able to get to where we want to be without knowing somebody or having some social connections or a hand up. I know that's true for me. And so that's what we want to do is we want to become a bridges community. So some people say, like, how can I get involved? Can I volunteer? So we have a link on the top where you can volunteer. We do like, we are always looking for help in our kitchen. We need help. We have our senior meals program. The neat thing about where we are as an organization and why we're called Copper Shores right now is because we've taken over Dial Help Services and also Senior Meals on Wheels. And so the neat thing about it is we have this comprehensive organization that, you know, we can utilize everybody's services. So we take the Senior Meals on Wheels and they cook us a hot dinner every Tuesday night. Last Tuesday, I had 2 gals in class that were going through what we call the tyranny of the moment. And so they needed some professional help. So I was immediately able to contact Dial Help people and put them in connection to help. Someone needed victim services, so we made that connection for them and helped them with a domestic violence kind of situation. So it's really kind of powerful to be able to do that for people, because a lot of times when someone's in trouble, they don't know who to call. And if they do know how to call, it takes a lot of time to get help. But we have that right at our fingertips, which has been great. So if anybody's interested in volunteering, we do like to have some help in the kitchen and childcare. Right now we have 5 people that are helping with childcare, and we are paying a couple of them, but we have 2 or 3 ladies that have experience with this, and they're just volunteering. Yeah, and as our Money Matters teachers, they are volunteering too. So they're taking time out of their life to help educate people about financial literacy, which, by the way, we follow the Dave Ramsey model for the most part. And so he has a 9-week online course, and we've been using the Dave Ramsey model. As far as donations, we have a link there too. And I think I need to update this a little bit because right now we really don't have any, we don't have too much support financially from a community yet, but I hope to put together some kind of program where maybe somebody could sponsor a night of meals, or maybe a program for the meals, or help with the transportation, maybe with the childcare or the food cost. But we're in the process of that, and I don't think I'm at liberty to share anything with you other than that. But we are in the process of trying to get some donations from our community to help with some of that stuff. So that's our website. If you know of anybody that is struggling, we already have 3 people that have applied for the January class, and I haven't even reached out to anybody. So the word is starting to get out there a little bit. And like I said, we eventually are going to have a class in Baraga and Ontonagon, just because it's too far for them to go. We had girls in our first class that we would pick up in Lawrence and bring them to class, and that in the middle of winter, that got to be difficult. So I think we're going to go to them and make it a little bit more easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think I've covered the majority of what we're all about. It's been exciting. It's been very rewarding. I've told my wife, I said, we always talked about how we want to volunteer and help our community, and I don't know how I stumbled on this, but boy, it's been last week was we went through a lot of serious stuff, but being able to help people with solutions is very rewarding, and making those connections is there's nothing better.
Wow, thank you so much, Mike. I know I have some questions, but I'm gonna see if anyone wants to